Hello and welcome to episode 144 of Pop Culturally Deprived, where each week we watch a movie I've never seen before, which is most of them, and talk about the good, the bad, and the damned exasperating. This week we're going to be talking about Hello, Dolly on your Half a Millionaire podcast. I'm Mandi Kaye, and when I'm not singing along to musicals, or even when I am, you can find me on Twitter at Mandi Kaye.
And I'm Matthew Vose. I sing along to musicals, but only the Walter Matthau parts. I'm at Matthew Vose on Twitter. Because he's got like 3 lines in the songs.
Right? He's not a singer.
He is not a singer, that is very true. He's the Willow of this musical.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
The Once More With Feeling drinking game where you just chug your drink every time Willow has to sing a line.
You would not be drunk by the end.
Basically, yeah. Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly. Happy birthday, Miss Mandi Kaye.
Yes, this is my birthday week, isn't it?
Yay. You picked this one out because we get to pick films for our birthday weeks.
We do.
The rule that has come around somehow. Why? I'm not going to ask why you never watched this because it's an old film. We all know that. But why have you picked this one?
Well, I think I wanted to find something fun and different from what we've been doing. You know, we just came off of the Keanu month and then the vampire month.
Yeah, not
so
a vampire film.
Just
yeah.
Definitely not a vampire film, right? So we've been doing a lot of like super serious stuff. Although, okay, we can argue that, you know, half the vampire movies we did weren't actually serious, but they were darker.
Yeah, lots of genre stuff as well. So
right. So I wanted something that was much lighter and fluffier and that I would just enjoy and that I thought I would have a lot of fun watching. And this one's been on my list for a really long time. So I thought this would be a great time to do it.
Okay. Do you want to tell us what it's about and a little bit of the history?
Okay, so matchmaker Dolly Levi travels to Yonkers to find a partner for half-a-millionaire Horace Vandergelder, convincing his niece, his niece's intended, and his 2 clerks to travel to New York City along the way. I actually think that's a pretty terrible synopsis, but I couldn't whittle it down, and that's what IMDb wrote, so I just kept
it. My synopsis would have been so different. People lie to make other people fall in love with them, because that's how love works. Barbra Streisand is also that, you know.
You know, that's not entirely inaccurate. You know, that this is very much about love via manipulation.
Yeah. Deceit. Deceit is the best way to win someone's heart.
Yes. Very much so. Okay. So, Hello, Dolly is the film adaptation of the Broadway production of the same name. Directed by Gene Kelly, it features a large cast, including Barbra Streisand, Walter Matthau, Danny Locken, and Marianne McAndrew. And I left off Michael Crawford, who apparently is a well-known stage actor. So he's also in this.
Oh, yeah, Michael Crawford's also there. Hey, look, one of the great musical actors of our time.
While production wrapped on the film in 1968, it did not open until December 1969 due to a clause in the contract that stipulated that the film could not be released until either June 1971 or it closed on Broadway, whichever came first. The show did not close on Broadway until 1970, but Fox was eager to release the film and negotiated an early release payment estimated to be between $1 and $2 million. While it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 3 of them for Best Art Direction and Set Decoration, Best Music Score of a Musical Picture, and Best Sound, it had a lackluster reception and was never a commercial success. Fun fact, this was also the very first film released on home video, VHS, and Betamax in the U.S.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So how were you able to watch Hello, Dolly in the UK?
It is available on Sky Cinema. I already had it downloaded even when you suggested it because I realised earlier this year I had never seen a film with Barbra Streisand in it, which feels like wrong given the number of films she's in and how famous she is, the number of films I've watched. So I had already downloaded a few films of hers to watch, and I'd already seen Prince of Tides and Yentl.
Okay.
So this was next on the list.
Okay.
How did you watch it?
I had to rent this on Amazon. But it is available to rent.
Okay, cool.
It's also on HBO if you have HBO. You can, stream it for free if you're already paying for HBO.
Nice. What's your experience of director Gene Kelly, Barbara Streisand, Walter Matthau, and Michael Crawford?
Gene Kelly, I know who he is because I think everybody knows who Gene Kelly is, hopefully. I have seen Singin' in the Rain, which I love. So that's really my go-to Gene Kelly experience. I'm not sure I've actually seen anything else that he's done.
He's the one who does everything forwards and in flats.
I was looking at the list and I was just like, these are all really old. So of course I haven't seen them. This is also my first Barbra Streisand. So this wasn't your first Barbra Streisand, but you downloaded it because you hadn't seen her yet. But this is officially my first Barbra Streisand movie. Although I am super aware of who she is. She's super famous. I mean, just for her looks, she's famous. For her sound, she's famous. For everything.
Yeah.
Like, she is Barbara, right?
Yeah. She's a big personality and famous because I think she's won many, many Grammys and things over the years. So but for herself, I can't think of anyone to compare her to except Dolly Parton.
Interesting.
Just as someone, she is just always there, always recording, always doing stuff.
See, I would put her in the same vein as like Bette Midler.
Okay. Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Walter Matthau, I know him as Mr. Wilson from the Dennis the Menace movie.
Okay.
And from Grumpy Old Men. Okay.
Have you seen the Odd Couple?
No, we've talked about it because of, Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau are like this duo now. And we talked about Jack Lemmon on Some Like It Hot, but I've not actually seen those.
Okay.
And then Michael Crawford apparently was famously the Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera for many, many years.
Yeah, he is
a lot of other things.
He is both Barnum and the Phantom. Like that guy made quite a career for himself. Over here, he's very famous for a show called Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, where he plays a sort of, I don't know how to describe it, quasi Mr. Bean, quasi Homer Simpson type.
Interesting.
Who's always getting into scrapes and having accidents and getting things wrong and typical kind of 70s and 80s sitcom stuff. And had a catchphrase where things would go wrong and he'd go, "Ooh, Betty," because his wife was called Betty. I was talking to my wife about it and she made a very good point that she never liked the show because she could never understand why Betty was with him.
Oh.
And yeah, it is one of those, you look back on it now, you go, yeah, not sure it works. I was trying to find clips for you, but they're not great. They are
interesting.
Of their time is probably the best way to put it.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Other than that, once I realized that Michael Crawford was the Phantom, I realized I had at least heard his name before.
Right.
But it was like buried way deep in like just recognition.
Yeah. Okay. So this certainly feels like, whether it is or not, feels like an old school romance musical. A kind of...
Yes.
Seven Brides, South Pacific, possibly even Singing in the Rain, something like that. What's your experience of films like that? Do you kind of like them? Are they okay for you?
Well, I mean, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is one of my all-time favorite musicals ever. So yes. And, My Fair Lady falls into this, I think. Singing in the Rain for sure. I think there's a lot more in existence than I've seen. And we could probably do an entire month of just these, considering I do really like the genre and I do really like, just musicals. But a lot of them fell victim to the idea that they're old and so I'm not going to like them, right. Which doesn't make sense because the ones I've seen I love.
Okay.
Right? Like there's this odd cognitive dissonance for me where even though experience tells me I'm going to like it, my brain still says, nope, that's old. And so I just didn't watch them.
I wonder if we could do a month that was like the modern film adaptations of classic musicals. And that's only because I can think of You've Got Mail as the adaptation of, is it She Loves Me? Again, an old musical that is that story, but then became You've Got Mail and various other things. I wonder if there are others like that where we could actually find the sort of better film version of them. I don't know. I'd need to research, but it's dinged. A little light bulb has gone off over me.
Okay.
We'll add it to the list after Toni Collette month, Australian Comedy month. and a few others.
Yeah, we're getting very theme-oriented around here.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah.
It makes it easy to pick films, frankly. Did you enjoy Hello, Dolly?
Okay, I did. I really did.
Okay.
I found myself, like, just sitting there smiling while I was watching it. Like, I didn't have very many notes, which usually means I didn't like something, because either when I don't like it, I either just don't have anything to say about it, or I rant about it and end up with like 200 things, right? And this was neither of those situations. I was just enjoying the experience. Like, the songs, even though I can't remember any of the song lyrics right now, like, the songs were catchy. I enjoyed listening to them. I loved the dancing and the sets and the costumes. I mean, it was utterly ridiculous. And I can totally understand why you're going to say this was not a good movie. I get it. But I enjoyed it. And I had a goofy grin on my face the whole last half of the movie.
Ah, good. I mean, it's nice that it opens with the rampant patriarchal misogyny of It Takes a Woman. Great. That just sets us off for a good time.
Well, yeah, okay. So we're going to have to talk about the asshole of Horace Vandergelder.
And that's, like, when we talk about it, it'll get in deeper, but that's why I'm a little surprised, because it starts off on a little bit of a bad foot.
I mean, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers starts off with Bless Your Beautiful Hide.
Yeah, true. And
it's a thing.
So can we talk a bit about your experience of this? Did you know any of the songs going into it? Were you prepared for any bits of it to stand out?
So my mom and I have season tickets to DPAC, which is the Durham Performing Arts Center.
Which I'm very jealous
of. And it's awesome. And Hello, Dolly was one of the shows that was from last season. And so we went, but I was sick. Oh. And we ended up leaving at intermission because I could not sit there any longer. I had a migraine and I was enjoying it so much. Like, I really, really loved it. Like, it was funny and I enjoyed the story. I didn't know where it was going to take us. And the songs were catchy. You know, I mean, all of the things that I said about the movie, it was fun. It was wonderful to watch it on stage. But I was sick and I couldn't sit there any longer. And so I didn't see the last half of it. And that's part of why I wanted to do this movie, because I wanted to know what happened.
Right.
Like, what is going to happen with Miss Dolly Levi and Mr. Horace Vandergelder?
Interesting. I didn't know any of it going into it. I didn't know any of the songs. No, let's put that right. I didn't know that the songs that I knew were this film. So,
right, exactly.
So when it got to that bit, I'm like, oh, this is the thing from Wall-E. Cool.
Right. Yeah, so there were songs in it that were familiar sounding to me.
Right.
But not enough that I knew any of the lyrics or that I could have ever told you they were from Hello, Dolly.
Okay. And I think that the one probably famous one, I think, is Hello, Dolly itself, which comes so late into the film.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's because Louis Armstrong released a recording of that, and it went to #1 for a very long time.
Right. Which he and Barbra Streisand are perfectly suited to sing together.
Yes,
that was a wonderful moment. We're going to return to that, I hope. There's a lot in this that feels very old school to me. In the plotting and the concept of it, and then what they do, and the staging, and the length of some of the sequences. That dining room sequence, it goes on quite a while. It doesn't seem to stop, and I'm not sure what the point of it. No, I can see what the point of it is, but we'll talk about that as a stage show taking in a minute. But I think it is just the purity that, and this is why I keep kind of saying it's a romance musical, which I don't think you agree with me on, but the story is about couples falling in love and having a romance.
Yeah, I guess. That's not really what I got out of it. So it took me until the end of the movie to figure out, and honestly, I'm still not sure about this.
Okay.
To figure out if Dolly was in love with Horace Vandergelder or if she just wanted him for his money. I kind of think she just wanted him for his money, but then at the end they made it seem like they were in love. So I'm still not sure. And I think that's why I can't put it in the romance column, because that's the main relationship that's in this movie, even though it doesn't actually become a relationship until the end.
No. Yeah. But it is about, okay, so could we call it a relationship movie? Because those are
sure.
the plots of it. Like, the fact they go and have this dining sequence and there's all bits of shenanigans going on, it's still all around the relationships. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes it feel like a very old-fashioned thing. However, I think it's also partially for me down to the way it's actually filmed and staged. I don't think this is filmed particularly well. And it's the dining room sequence that is my main evidence that I will point to. The dining room sequence goes on quite a long time. There's waiters flipping trays around and jumping over each other and throwing champagne at each other, and it's all boisterous and exciting and lots of fun going on. But there's lots of cuts between each shot, going to show, this is what's going on over here, this is what's going on over here, here's another angle on it, that kind of thing. And it almost lessens the impact of it. If it was one take of all this stuff going on from one shot, as it obviously would be in a stage show, you would go like, wow, this is a crescendo ensemble piece. This is something quite fantastic. The sort of thing you see in the big musicals, where they all, everyone comes together, there's singing, there's dancing, there's throwing people around, there's lots of excitement, people jumping on top of the stage and running around, and it's just non-stop, huge quality moments. And because you can see that there are cuts between it and going to different shots, it loses the impact of, wow, I'm seeing something special staged here. I'm seeing moments of something special staged, but I'm not seeing the whole.
Okay.
It was one continual thing. And for me, that just sort of went, I wish we just had a fixed camera and I just saw this happening. Like a lot of the very old, the proper Gene Kelly musicals, I think, did, where it was just one shot of them going through a sequence.
I think, so I read a quote from Barbra Streisand where she said one of the reasons that she took the movie was because it wasn't just reshooting the stage performance.
Okay.
And I find that odd because I feel like that's exactly what they did. Like, it was, we're going to perform this Broadway play and just film it. Yeah. And they didn't quite do it well.
You think of the staging of the millinery shop, and particularly the bit when the younger woman whose name, I have no idea what any of their names were, to be honest with you.
Minnie. The younger woman was Minnie. Okay. Minnie Faye.
Where she sees the men and starts screaming and gets ushered out. That is exactly from a stage show. Like, she is being ushered off stage at that point.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Pursued by a bear.
I think, honestly, the dining room sequence, the performance of the waiters would have been beautiful on stage, but it could have been completely taken out of this movie and you wouldn't have lost anything.
Yeah. You would have lost some time because this is a long musical.
Oh, yeah, it's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it is the same length as the stage show, so you can see they haven't cut anything. And I feel like, at the very least, then the niece and her beau are completely unnecessary. I'm not sure what they're doing in this.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're her excuse to go there, but I don't think she needs an excuse to go there.
Oh, no, Dolly Levi doesn't need an excuse to do anything.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So interestingly enough that you say they didn't cut anything, there were a few things that were changed.
Oh, yeah.
There were a few scenes that were cut, and then there were 2 songs that were added.
Wow.
So the opening song in the movie is different, is not the same as the opening song in the show. And the one in the movie was written specifically for Barbra. The guy who wrote it said that she was very good at singing hugely lyrical songs with lists and doing it really fast, and that's why he wrote that song for her.
Lots of pitches, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun. Watching her sing it was fun.
Have you seen Fiddler?
That was also one of the shows from last season at DPAC, and we left at intermission because we didn't like it.
Yeah, okay. That is fair. I went with my parents who loved it, but and we did all say, yeah, that was not a good production of it. But it reminded me of there is a character who does that sort of getting everyone together, the matchmaking thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the way they do it in this film is the whole thing of she gets paid when there's matrimony. So she believes in marriage and wants people to get married for that reason. It reminds me of Terry Pratchett's take on firefighters, that it's a bad idea to pay a service based on how many fires they put out.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt a little bit like that in this. She's like, oh yeah, I get paid for weddings, so everyone must get married and divorced and married again.
Right.
War is good for business, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yes, that is a very good opening. And Streisand herself is very good at what she does. I'm not sure, given this feels like it should be a more old-fashioned or classical style of musical than it is at times. She does not dance in the way leading ladies dance in those sorts of musicals. Mm-hmm. She's good at the kind of moving on around ensemble piece where it's 2 rows of people doing the same actions and maybe she's doing something slightly different, but she's not doing the twirling in the gown, fast-paced, really impressive dancing. That is not her talent.
Right. That's why you get in the parade where she ends up just standing in the middle with her arms flung up, right? Like she is the centerpiece, but she's not doing any of the action. And the stairway sequence in the restaurant was the same.
Mm. Very similar. Everyone's doing all the interesting stuff around her.
Mm-hmm. And she's just there to look pretty.
Yeah.
And sing wonderfully.
Yeah, she does sing. And she is, I think, in terms of the performance, the acting performance, certainly from a comedy sense, she's hands and feet above everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
Just what's the moment when Michael Crawford is in the cupboard, the wardrobe. She puts her thing in there to show there's no one in there. She says something, see, there's no one in there. He sneezes and she just goes, bless you. She doesn't blink. Right. She doesn't react. She doesn't look. She just goes, bless you, because you say bless you. You are that polite, but she knows the game is up, but doesn't react to it. And it's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
I thought that her performance was spectacular. The way that the speaking fast and she had wonderful comedic timing with the way that she delivered lines, that her vocals absolutely killed all of these songs. The problem is Dolly Levi is supposed to be a middle-aged widow.
Right.
She should be in her 60s. Barbara Streisand was 27.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. She was too young for this.
And 20 years younger than Walter Matthau?
At least.
So
I think he was 40. Yeah, I think he was 49. So there's a 22-year difference.
So I suspect it's his money. If we're going back to that early conversation.
Yeah. Right. But in the original play, though, Carol Channing played her. And I mean, she played her as an older woman. It's always been an older woman. Bernadette Peters has done it in more recent years.
Right.
And so when it's actually played by someone who's not young, does that motivation shift?
Possibly. And certainly it would be more believable that she could fall for him. Mm-hmm. But certainly his and I think this is where we now talk about him, his personality at the beginning, it's hard to see anyone falling for him.
Yes.
And it is okay to have at the beginning of your film a character have that patriarchal misogyny if part of the point of the film is he's going to realise the error of his ways or get his comeuppance or repent for thinking that way. And I think he does.
But it's not earned.
No, because he's off screen, for a lot of this film.
Yeah, and so honestly, the ending is my one gripe about this movie.
Okay.
Of course they end up together because that's what you're supposed to do, but he literally went from grumpy old stingy man who doesn't want to spend money on anything to quoting her dead husband about spreading money everywhere like manure. Like that, he was not the same character, and there was no indication of that change happening because it literally was like one sentence to the next.
And the opportunity is there, the point where he realises he has no one and it's his own fault. Mm-hmm. The opportunity is there for him to be like, wow, I'm alone, I need to change my ways.
Right.
But you don't get that. I think you called him Scrooge in your notes, and that is a really good catch.
Yeah.
And yeah,
especially at the beginning, when it's like you can't take time off, you have to stay here and work.
Yeah.
It's straight out of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. And the fact he even knows what colours she wants to paint the front of his house.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. He, just in general, as a character, he was awful. God, when she comes in that gold dress, which is spectacular, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, that dress weighed 40 pounds and cost $8,000.
Amazing.
In 1969 money. His reaction to her is, do you think you have the figure for that getup? I'm sorry, what? She should have slapped him, but she's amazing. And she's just like, well, that's not for me to say. You know? Like, she handles him wonderfully. Yeah. And so the amount of grace and confidence that she exudes as a woman is wonderful, but she should have slapped him.
But that then leads us to the other side of it that I found really problematic, is all of it is based on lies. It's based on her turning him off the woman he was going to ask to marry him. The clerks lying to the women they meet and have a delightful evening with, lying all the time, and eventually coming true, and they're like, oh no, we knew you were lying. Well, I'm not sure you'd be on the date with him if you knew, but fine. And then even at the end, they're lying to each other, and it's finally when he seems to see the sense of his ways that they're all saying okay, but there's no... And everything she did actually worked out for the best. It's like, no, she got away with it, is what it comes across as.
Yeah, it comes across a little bit fantastical that she can manipulate everything so perfectly to end up 20 steps later to be where she wanted it, right? Like, that's not possible. But at the same time, she also, and this was in the stage play too, you know, every time somebody said something like, Ambrose was saying he couldn't dance, and she had a business card specifically about teaching painters to dance.
Nice.
Right. So she had business cards for every potential situation that
Brilliant.
Could come up.
I like that.
And it was a nice nod because it did lend a credence of believability to her machinations. I think if they hadn't had those business cards, it would have felt way more unbelievable. I mean, and it is obviously unbelievable. It's a musical, right?
And yeah,
this is not our world.
No, but it is allowed to have that level of fantasy, but it's just cynical. And it makes me cynical about it. I know I am a fairly cynical person at times, but just the, you know, she sends him on a date with her friend, who her friend then has to leave early so she can arrive and have the date with him.
Oh, I thought that was cute. You know, and I think, though, I see what you're saying. There is a level of cynicism there because it is all about manipulation and not actually love. But I think the movie tries to offset that because you get the beautiful moments between Irene and Cornelius, right? And they sing that song, and, you know, just a moment, whatever it's called, something about moments. You know, they fall in love in an instant. They have a whole life's amount of love in a moment. And, you know, they're trying to be romantic and sweet at the same time. Maybe they're trying to show both sides of the coin. Yeah.
And at least there does seem to be some actual attraction. So that's maybe why they went on date, because there was the actual attraction, but...
it worked for me.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
But here's a question for you about Michael Crawford's acting specifically.
Okay.
Did it ever feel to you like he was channeling Dick Van Dyke?
Well, I mean, they're a little one in the same. To the extent when you know, we were saying, oh, that's Michael Crawford. What have we seen him in? Was it Bedknobs and Broomsticks? Or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Or, oh no, it was Phantom and Barnum.
Okay, so...
They are basically the same sort of actor. So, yeah.
Okay. So we'll see. I wouldn't have known that because this is my first Michael Crawford, right?
Yeah.
But I was watching the way he moves, the way he smiles, the way he says some things, like his facial expressions. It was very much Mary Poppins. Like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins is what I was seeing, and it was odd.
And yeah,
it was great, but it was odd.
That is his style, because he's very tall, he's quite lanky, so he can do lots of the, I'm going to say legwork. I'm not sure that's the right word for it, but you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's important to have that character. Just returning a bit to some of the casting stuff earlier, I think Walter Matthau feels miscast. Because, I mean, he sings better than Russell Crowe, but...
That's not but, yeah. People sing better than Russell Crowe.
And that's harsh. I didn't mind Russell Crowe at all, but Walter Matthau does not stand out compared to the people he's up against in this film, and he also does not dance very clearly. But I can't decide whether that's intentional, and the character would always be cast as an older man who is not normally in this sort of show. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the sort of thing you could do a bit of stunt casting, or whether it's just Walter Matthau was the big name, so that's why they put him in there. Can you remember what sort of person it was when you saw it?
No, I don't.
Too much migraine,
actually.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm actually looking up the original casting. It looks like it was David Burns.
Who's David?
So also older.
Okay. But a musical actor?
Well, I'm pretty sure everybody on the Broadway show would have been a musical actor.
Okay.
Maybe not, but... Oh, in 2017, David Hyde Pierce played it against Bette Midler.
He is a musical actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it is they were going for the name rather than what they would normally cast there. And so I think it's important to have someone like Michael Crawford who can carry, certainly in the one or two songs they have together, those moments against each other where at least one of them is doing some impressive dancing stuff.
Right. I feel like I read somewhere that Gene Kelly had to fight for it to be Walter Matthau.
Oh, really?
But I can't remember where I read it.
I can see it. And you reminded me, because you mentioned it a bit earlier, there was a whole parade scene. And the parade scene goes on for a year. The parade scene does not stop.
It does not stop, no.
And
it really was unnecessary, I think.
Yeah.
It was expensive. It cost them a lot of money to do that parade.
Yeah, there were bits I was trying to work out. Were they acting against a rear projection screen or not? I think it mixes and matches occasionally. Like, particularly when they're talking. I think they might be. But you've just got bits of is it the Temperance Society? Mm-hmm. And of course they are matronly looking, stern older women. And it's just,
of course.
Okay, come on.
I think I thought it was funny.
Okay. There was a lot of that sort of thing that just, okay, we get it.
Yeah, it definitely didn't need to be 2.5 hours. I will give you that.
Yeah, and it surprises me then hearing that Barbra Streisand thought there was stuff different or cut.
Yeah. It's pretty close to the whole thing. Another interesting fact, especially considering how we both agree that Walter Matthau is not a singer, all of the cast members sang their own songs except for Mariana McAndrew, who played Irene.
Okay.
Her voice was actually dubbed by Melissa Stafford and Gilda Macon.
Okay.
I don't know who they are,
okay.
But her voice was dubbed. I don't entirely know why, and I think it's odd that they dubbed hers and didn't dub Walter Matthau's.
I mean, you'd tell if it was him, though, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, that is true, because his voice is very unique.
Yeah. You've now got me looking through all the people who have played the different parts over the years. So, yeah, and like you're saying, the recent Broadway revival, Bette Midler, 2006, Tova Felzer, who played Rebecca's mother on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. So, yeah, it's an older woman, certainly, than Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always been an older woman. It was very odd that they've put someone so young in this role for the movie.
Fascinating. Do you have any favourite stuff from this? I'm assuming you do, because you liked it more than we did, but...
I mean, yeah, I really like the whole thing. I think my favorite scene was the Hello Dolly scene.
Right.
That's when I realized I was smiling and couldn't stop smiling.
Okay.
It was just lovely. And I think part of it was because I was invested in Dolly as a character at that moment, and it was nice to finally see her go from a lonely widow to someone who actually had a life and had friends and family and people who love her.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. I did really like that Irene knew all along that the boys were lying.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't expect that. I was trying to figure out what was going to happen. I didn't know. And so that was a nice twist that she did and was going to pay for everything. And then, of course, she didn't have the money either, which was fun.
And yeah, it does help, because there's so many times where we watch a film of any sort where we go, I don't buy that character motivation. I don't buy that they believe that lie, that whatever. And it is almost refreshing to have a moment of, oh, hey, they weren't duped by it. Good on them.
Right.
Because we weren't duped, so.
Yeah. I think those are probably the main bits that I liked the most, since I'm not allowed to take the whole thing. But I liked it.
Do you think Barbra Streisand was the sort of best performer in it?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
You couldn't take your eyes off of her when she was on screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, and they tried to make you, because I mean, the sets and the costumes were just so extravagant. they tried to make this like a full-out musical production, and they did. It was a little too much at times, I think.
Right.
And you're right, the filming, they could have done the filming better, but it was fun.
Good.
And it was pretty to watch.
Mm-hmm. I think we need to find another strong Barbra Streisand performance, perhaps in a stronger film as well. And I don't know whether that's Funny Girl. So I think the one before this, because this was her second film, I think. Was it Funny Girl before this?
Yes.
Okay. So whether it's that, whether it's We Do Go to Yentl, because Yentl was very good, or something else. I'm trying to find her filmography.
Is Yentl the one that she wrote? Wasn't she like super involved in like
directed,
creation?
She produced, story by someone else, screenplay by her and Jack Rosenthal.
Okay.
So, but she directed it as well, and she is very good in that. I mean, is it A Star Is Born? Oh, possibly.
I'd be interested in that one. I started trying to watch the new one and got bored.
Okay.
I was surprised I got bored. Like I didn't finish it.
Interesting.
It should have been wonderful. Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper singing should have been great.
Yeah.
I was bored.
Okay.
Maybe it's just the wrong time for me to try to watch it. Maybe if I tried again, I wouldn't be, but...
Well, okay, if you're a Dolly Parton fan, you're listening to this and you're shouting at your radio, phone, computer, iPad, Alexa, whatever you're listening to this on. Oh, she's lit up. I shouldn't have said her name.
You also just called Barbra Streisand Dolly Parton.
Did I?
You did.
I'm really ill.
I mean, her character's name is Dolly, so it's forgivable, I guess.
Oh, I'm doing so well. If you're a really big fan of Bette Midler,
Babs.
That's that once more from the top, lads. So if you're a really big fan of... I've forgotten.
Oh my god, her name is Barbra Streisand. Guys, if you're a really big fan of Barbra Streisand, tell us what movie to watch. I think that's what Matthew's trying to say.
That's exactly what you should be doing. I think the problem is, because I now have the list up of all the films she's in, I've just got a list of character names.
Okay.
Throwing me off my game, clearly. If you are a fan of Yentl, you tell me what other films she's been in.
All right. I feel certain there will be people who will tell us that we should watch other Barbra Streisand movies. I'm sorry that you didn't really love this one, but were there moments that you did really like?
There were some moments, and some of them are when you take them out of the film. Yes, they work very nicely. So you're talking about some of the love sequence, particularly between Michael Crawford and the milliner, Irene
Malloy.
Irene Adler Malloy. Yeah. He has a bit to her where, he has been sacked and everything's going really badly, and he talks to her and he says, I've lost everything, my job, my future, everything people think is important, but I don't care, because even if I have to dig ditches for the rest of my life, I shall be a ditch digger who once had a wonderful day. Aww. That's a terrific bit of writing. In a
poetic.
Yeah, in a better film with perhaps better delivery, that would be one of the classic just a girl standing in front of a boy type lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked them in the dinner sequence as well, where he says, oh, if I tell you the truth, can I put my arm around you? And she says, you can lie and put your arm around me if you want. Something along those lines. He puts his arm around and says, oh, I've never touched a woman before. And she just goes, you still haven't. That's my corset.
That was a nice line. I laughed.
And she, several times through it, has these, certainly for the time and definitely for this sort of film, slightly naughty moments. That are like,
well, yeah, because they set it up front though that she's a milliner, a hat woman, and so she must be naughty. Woman.
She was bitten by a radioactive hat.
But the women all think that she must do things that are naughty, and so she just leaned into it, right?
When the younger one is eating a banana and she's like, everyone's starting to stare, you have to finish that off. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that, right?
Yeah, good on them. But we have to return to Barbra Streisand. The bit where she starts climbing the ladder behind the chap whose name I do not know. And she's just behind him on the ladder, and then she eventually goes, "Look, I'm getting an updraft up my pants. You have to go up." And again, it sort of comes out of nowhere because there's this slightly proper Victorian thing going on.
Right.
But then they just she forces them into the room and then deals with everything up there. But Dolly and Barbara, by extension, is a force of nature in this, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She's great. She said, I didn't actually write it down. I thought I did. Oh, yes, I did. Mr. Kemper, everything concerns Dolly Levi. Like, she says that. Like, she just exudes confidence. I think that's what I like about her the most.
Yeah, there was a more modern take on this. Certainly more modern sensibilities, if not set in a more modern time, with that character that we all just end up loving.
Yeah.
But you would need a very strong actor to play her. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure who that is.
I would have to give that some thought.
Tell us again if you're telling us about Dolly Parton, Barbra Streisand, Bette Midler, Glenn Close. Tell us who you think should play a modern Dolly in the Hello Dolly 2019 edition. I'm not sure. Because, Amy Poehler, but I'm not sure she's got the singing thing going on.
Does it have to be a musical?
No.
Could we do a non-musical adaptation?
If we can cut out the parade and the dining sequence and the walking sequence. They sing a long song about walking.
They do, but it was pretty. That one I actually liked. If they're singing and dancing at the same time, I don't mind it. It's when they're dancing with no singing.
Okay.
Like, on a stage, that's okay. And I understand why they do that on a stage, but when you translate that to a movie, it's just too much.
Oh, Portia de Rossi. She'd be good. She's a force of nature on screen.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm going to have to give that some thought. Like, my brain is exploding right now because it's just too many possibilities.
Okay.
Oh, there was something else I was going to say, and it was either really funny or really important, and it's gone.
One or the other.
Yeah, it was one or the other, but it's gone. Okay. Well, is there anything else that we need to discuss about Hello Dolly?
Have you seen WALL-E?
I have.
Okay.
I had forgotten that this scenes from Hello Dolly were shown in WALL-E, and I feel certain that when I watched WALL-E, I didn't know what movie they were showing.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, it's an old movie. I did actually read that in 2008, video sales of Hello Dolly increased significantly, right. And they posit that it's because of WALL-E.
Well, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I have no further questions, I'm afraid.
All right. Well, if you would like to join the conversation, you can use the hashtag PCDeprived on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Eloquent Gushing. And you can send an email to podcast@eloquentgushing.com if you have a great idea for who should play Dolly Levi in a modern day adaptation. And you can also leave us a voice message at speakpipe.com/eloquentgushing, or just email us an audio file. We would love to hear your voice and to play your voice on our show.
We are completely funded by our lovely listeners like you through Patreon. Anything you give gives access to exclusive content, bonus shows, games that we play, Discord servers, merch, stickers, magnets, all sorts of exciting things, and helps to support the network. If you want to find out more, go to patreon.com/eloquentgushing.
And we will be back next week where we are going to talk about the BBC's Pride and Prejudice with Laura Stewart Barry. So until next time, I'm Mandi Kaye.
And you're looking swell, Dolly.
Indeed she was. Due to a clause in the film sale... Wow, I can't talk. Due to a clause in the film sale... Due to a clause in the contract that stipulated that the film could not be released until either...